I'm going to tell you the one thing that will save your life if you ever hear a baby crying in the land of La Lechuza.
La Lechuza is a creature of many different origins. Some tell of a woman who sells her soul to the devil in exchange for this power. Others say that a bruja, or witch, was attacked and killed by the people of her village and came back as La Lechuza. While another variation of its origin is a woman who was attempting to bring back a lost love but was deceived by an evil force into becoming La Lechuza. Perhaps the multiple variations of La Lechuza's origin could be a sign that there isn't just a single entity silently stalking the forests and villages of the southwest United States, but that there are dozens, if not more, of these beasts waiting for a lonely traveler to swoop down upon and carry away, to never be seen again.
I have a special announcement, but I'll tell you more about that later. So if you actually saw La Lechuza, you wouldn't be standing there with eyes full of wide wonder, because La Lechuza is said to be 7 feet tall with the wingspan of 15 feet. And while it may be an owl, it's said to have the face of an evil elderly woman, and that her eyes may be similar to a human's or like that of an owl. Some claim that even smaller owls can be La Lechuza, but in every instance they're either an all-white owl or all-black owl.
The legends speak of these creatures being spotted in Chihuahua, Coahuila, Durango, Nuevo León, Tamaulipas, and in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas and California, especially Southern California, which I find particularly interesting, since that's where the Tataclea are said to have been killed off and totally eradicated. They're another type of owl monster, but more about them later.
And assuming you don't see La Lechuza immediately, or just recognize them by their owl body and human face, how would you be able to tell if you were in the presence of one of these things? If you hear the sound of a baby crying in the middle of the woods, I think twice about what's going on. It could just be an infant with their parents and the little one's not having that good of a time. Or it could be La Lechuza trying to lure you to a place that's not so safe for you to be. It's a twisted thing to ignore a cry for help, and in all honesty, I'd probably still go towards it just because I know how to keep La Lechuza at bay. But first, let's discuss who's at risk of an attack from La Lechuza and some other warning signs of this entity.
If you're a man, and a drunkard at that, you're more of a target for La Lechuza. This is possibly because of a version of her origins come from her child being accidentally killed by a drunk man, and she turned herself into La Lechuza to get revenge. While nobody is inherently safe from this owl monster, alcoholic men are more prone to attacks, but also another variant explains that newborn babies that have yet to be baptized are her preferred meal of choice. They're also said to be able to create thunderstorms, but again, there are a lot of variations to what they can and can't do, but all of them warn you not to do this one thing while out in the woods, while you're out camping or fishing and having a good time with your friends or family. It's important to never whistle. This is a common theme in multiple Native American cultures, and when La Lechuza is involved, whistling 3 times in the middle of the night is an invitation for it to come to your home or camp. You're basically welcoming this thing to the place that you're sleeping. Secondly, having dreams of La Lechuza is said to be an omen of death. Now, if this is preventable after the dream is had, I don't know. But there is a way to protect yourself while you sleep. But first, that special announcement.
So for those of you who love all things adventure, from lost treasures, spooky legends, and terrifying cryptids, and just the subject of the unknown, really, I recently made a Patreon, and it comes with some special perks for those of you looking for that extra dose of adventure. I really hope that camera got that.
You can connect with me and others and discuss weekly topics and share our opinions on things in an exclusive community, but that's not all. I'm going to be posting updates on videos and topics I'm working on, and it's just a little behind the lens look. But lastly, and one of my favorite things I'm going to be doing with this, is giving you what I call the voice of adventure. It's essentially exclusive voting opportunities that others won't get. So here's how it'll work. When deciding on videos to make, I'll put out a poll of 4 creatures or myths on YouTube. Out of those 4, the top 2 go into Patreon for you to decide on. So if the public love Mothman, but the patrons decide Bigfoot is more important to talk about, then that comes first in the lineup of topics. The 3rd and 4th just go back into the poll to be voted on again. This is just another stepping stone to getting to make this my full-time thing, so that way I can bring you content at a more consistent rate with improved quality.
But if that's something you're interested in, check the link in the description and I hope I'll see you there. But if you run into La Lechuza before then you're gonna wanna know this. So you most likely have this item in your kitchen cabinets. Sometimes I sleep with it on my end table. And it's not because I'm afraid of La Lechuza, I just really enjoy salt and sometimes I forget to put it away. But yeah, the one thing that can keep you safe from this owl monster is salt. It's said to have an almost acidic property towards the creature and will burn it upon contact. And it's well known to protect you from evil spirits. Supposedly some hunters will use it to keep away ghosts, demons, and evil spirits while they're out in the woods. But even if you don't run into one, it's usually a nice condiment to have while you're camping. Oh, and one other way to sort of repel this witch is to curse at it like a sailor in a traffic jam. Yelling and screaming profanities at La Lechuza is said to ward her off. This may be because in every version, La Lechuza is a female and she just doesn't like that potty mouth. Either way, it couldn't hurt to hurl a couple of explicatives at a 7-foot owl. In all seriousness, I think it's more about just not showing fear, kind of similar to skinwalkers. You can yell and scream and say all sorts of strong language to get them to go away and leave you alone, and eventually they will.
But some believe La Lechuza isn't always a bad thing. In fact, the Owl Witch didn't seem to want to harm this one kid in particular. The kid and family even felt as though she was actually a good omen and protected the family from, well, I'll tell you the story now.
A family had a 9-year-old boy and they lived in South San Antonio, Texas. We'll call the boy Timmy. You see, Timmy was an average kid who enjoyed watching TV and cartoons, and he heard what he thought was his father coming home from work early. So, excited at the fact that his dad was home, Timmy jumps up, runs to the door, and immediately looks outside for his dad, but he wasn't there. His eyes went from the porch to the driveway and then across the road at a picnic table to see a gigantic, pitch-black owl sitting and staring at the house. So he runs back inside and tells his grandma in the kitchen what he had seen. Once she realized what exactly he saw, she began praying and doing a limpieza, which is it's a special sort of cleansing with an egg. So once his abuela did this, she began to explain to her grandson what La Lechuza was and how that thing outside was it. But the abuela noticed something very strange. Timmy wasn't scared. He wasn't even bothered by this huge owl sitting outside at the picnic table, and it was sitting there for a solid 15 minutes. Now eventually it left, but while it was there, it just kept staring at the house without ever having blinked. But still, the boy wasn't even upset. In fact, he even asked his abuela if it was there, perhaps to warn them of some sort of impending danger. Now later on, his dad would come home and he was told what had happened, but he didn't really buy into the superstitions of an old woman and the imagination of a little boy. But later that night, there was a very rough storm and it had damaged everything in the area except for 2 things: the house where the boy lived and the picnic table where La Lechuza was sitting. So perhaps this is just a coincidence, or perhaps it's something else.
Owls are often looked at as magical creatures, and quite often are seen as evil magical creatures, such as that of the Tataklea of Yakima legend. So go ahead and check out that video, or the one YouTube seems to think you'll enjoy. Either way, I'll see you there.